Welcome back to another episode of the South by East podcast, where we talk about everything from the scriptures, the culture, and everything in between. Braille,
Yes, sir.
what do we have today?
Yes, sir. Today we have Miss RaQuel Hopkins back again with another video. And man, boy, them hits, they don't miss. They don't miss. And so we got another really good piece that she did here on boundaries. Let's check out what she had to say, and then we can weigh in a little bit here in the intersection.
So this is not your responsibility, because these are my thoughts, right? I don't like the way we talk about boundaries and self-care, not because they're bad tools, right? But because the way that we're using them now is doing more harm than good. Boundaries were meant to help you stay rooted in identity. Self-care was meant to help you replenish so you could keep showing up. But what are we doing now? We're using boundaries to avoid growth. We're using self-care to justify checking out. And we're calling everything protecting my peace when it's really avoiding discomfort. And research backs this up, right? It's not the tool that's actually the issue. It's how it functions. If a tool is meant to build strength, is now functioning as a shield from life, that's not self-regulation. That's self-protection in disguise. And over time, it makes us emotionally fragile. You know, that's one of my favorite words. It makes us, not only does it make us emotionally fragile, but it also makes us mentally rigid, more reactive, and not more resilient. So no, I am not anti-boundaries or self-care. I'm against how we've rebranded them into coping strategies that keep us avoiding the very work that we claim to be doing. So here's a question for you. Are you using these tools to expand your capacity, or just to escape the discomfort of building it?
Are you using those tools to expand your capacity, or just to escape the discomfort of building it? What you thinking, John?
Man, you know, Raquel is over here like Pacquiao. You know, she hitting the same spot over and over again, over and over again. Man, you know what? Here's the thing that's tiring as a leader right now is, people are wanting you to co-sign on a lot of foolishness and calling it, well, she's got like self-care, different things of that nature, and it's like, no, I'm just not. I'm not transgressing your boundaries. I'm just refusing to co-sign on your foolishness.
Yeah. Sometimes just straight delusion, bro. Like people want you to speak to a worldview that's not reality. Like if you submit to my leadership, then you've asked me to help you walk in the real world and grow in some area. And in order to do that, we have to acknowledge what truly exists.
So here's okay, all right, bro. Let me explain something to you. Every time I've taken a new job, guess what?
Well,
I haven't been good at it. So in order to at least be able to function at the speed of the team, I actually have to put in more time at the beginning when I take that new position in order to learn the different things I need to learn, to put more time into study, to pick up the language, to invest more time, just seeing what's in the ecosystem. It's going to take me more time. And I'll see people that come in and think, I'm going to take this new job, I'm going to come in and work straight 40 and be out. And then I'm going to complain when I'm not getting things done. And it's like, fam, you're less efficient right now.
right.
It's not that, like, look, if you got a new tool, say you're not used to Google Suite or whatever else, on top of just know how to do the task, you got to learn how to use the tools.
Right.
Right? And so it's going to take you some learning and practicing and different things of that nature. And people would be like, well, you should just program that into their time. I'm gonna tell you where there's a mismatch, because the same people will have kids that's in sports that would never say, I expect my kid to start a game, and the only time they practice is when they're at practice.
No.
And they would say, hey, you need to be spending some time with your kid practicing their dribbling and practicing their free throws and stuff outside of practice, so when they come to practice, they can do the drill.
Right.
But when it comes to their job that pays and provides for them, they think that everything is supposed to be in those 40 hours. When, hey, if you're less efficient, now there's a time when you say, look, it is too high over here. We got to adjust some stuff.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that happens.
But when you're starting out, especially when you know you have a performance issue that you need to spend more time on, because man, I'm weak in this area. It takes me longer to do this area. I got to figure this out. I got to figure out how to do better at this area. And there's no time, and they'll be like, well, I'm trying to hold to the right boundaries and work life balance, and it's like the way you establish that boundaries is you got to at least be proficient. Now, the salary I'm paying you is for a person who is proficient at that position.
Task, yeah.
You want me to pay you a proficient wage when you're not proficient.
Yeah, it's like you want me to put you through school. You're trying to train for the job that I've already given you, while I'm paying you to do the job, to produce the deliverables that the job requires. That doesn't make sense.
And you don't want to put in extra time. Also, like what she was saying, man, even in relationships, of just avoiding conversations, that like avoiding conflict. Let me put on my pastoral hat all the time. The Beatitudes, man. Blessed are the peacemakers. Peacemaking and peacekeeping are not.
Yeah, two different things.
They're not the same thing. And avoidance is not making peace.
Right.
And you have to move toward and have those right conversations, man, and lean into that. And it's so important, and we just see it. But it goes back to what she said about the tool. One of the things we teach is the semicircle. And the semicircle says that you have to start from a place of abiding and just knowing who you are. And I just talked on another podcast about this, about just, I feel like some of the unhealthy decisions that leaders make, especially in the nonprofit and health sector, come because their work becomes their identity. And so they can't step away from things. They can't stop a program. They can't pause things, because to do so would be to pause themselves, because their identity is based upon their work and what they produce rather than who they are.
Right.
They've become human doings instead of human beings, and that's always dangerous, because you start using the programs you lead and the people you serve and get to walk beside as a drug for your dopamine that keeps feeding your social emotional wellness, which is not a wellness at all. It's just another word for an illicit drug that we have somehow become okay with. But when you don't start at abiding, what happens is you swing over to fruitfulness, but you swing so far beyond it, you swing to burnout. So when you try to come back to a place of abiding where you should be, you swing past abiding to escapism. And that escapism is what causes us to binge on TV, to binge and to all the other different things we do to look for ways to escape, whether it's through drugs or alcohol or porn or whatever it is. It causes us to want to escape rather than to just abide. And then you continue over swinging, right, every time to try to course correct from what you did last time. You felt like you overswung in abiding into escapism, and then you feel shame and guilt about it, and so you try to overswing in fruitfulness to make up for the time that you were not on task and doing what you're supposed to do, and so that leads to more burnout, which leads to a deeper swing the other way, back and forth. One of the books I'm reading right now is called Ego is the Enemy, and in it, it had this quote about how very few people have the skill to find the center of the circle. It said, man, it's really easy to be ambitious because all it takes is slamming your foot down on the gas. And it's really easy to be complacent because all it takes is totally taking your foot off the gas.
Right.
But it takes real skill to go the speed limit because you have to find the center. And it just speaks once again that we live in a world that treasures and rewards the extremes.
Yeah, man, man, you hit something in there that I was gonna circle back to, and so I wanted to come back. That escapism and what that looks like, and when I hear her talking about boundaries, and what she's giving examples of aren't boundaries at all; they're forms of escape. And a lot of people use the conversation around mental health to not address their mental health at all, but just to have an excuse to escape. And so as we set up things that we call boundaries, which are actually avoidance, which is a form of escape, and usually we fill those times that we call boundaries and self-care with escapist tools, with drugs, with porn, with TV, with all of these different areas. The real issue is that we're not actually addressing our health. And it becomes dangerous because when you're constantly saying you're addressing your mental health and you're not, so you're not getting the results of it, there becomes this disconnect where you're like, well, I've spent so much time on my mental health, and you do end up finding yourself just constantly swinging back, and it's because you don't have the tools. Real quick, so some of my kids are in therapy right now, and my kids are in therapy because there are both thoughts and behaviors that we wanted to help them be able to address. It took years where we really didn't see much of a change. But just over the last couple of weeks, I've seen my kids identify a problem with something that was happening in their life, take a tool and apply it to that problem, and then see a change in result and thus have a change in behavior. It took them years to learn the tools in order to affect change in their own life. And a lot of times we're not looking for a tool because we don't actually want to do any work. We just want things to magically change. And so we're taking things that are actually tools to keep us exactly where we are and saying like, man, I'm working so hard to change. And really, we're not.
I'm gonna push back a little bit on that. Two reasons why. I feel like we are looking for a tool, but here's where it goes back to something you said. We're using self-care and boundaries like I used to use salad.
Okay.
So in high school, I was, athlete, different things, and times like, hey, coach, like, you need to take off some weight. So in our cafeteria, we had a salad bar. And man, I used to go to the salad bar, bro, and
I see where this is going.
and back then I loved the French dressing that was on there. I can't even eat the stuff now. It was full of sugar, different things of that nature, bro.
All it is.
And one day I sat down and I'm like, yeah, man, and one of my friends looked at me and was like, bro, you even make a salad unhealthy. And it's like we're taking things that are supposed to be good and we're using them in the worst way. We're looking for a tool, but we're looking for a tool to be a silver bullet. And that's what she said. She said it's not the tool itself, it's how we're using the tool. And it's like community is good, but when community becomes your God,
it's not designed for that.
It's not designed for that. It can't carry the weight for that, right? Salads are good, but when you put the wrong things in the salad, then
the salad look like a Big Mac without the bun.
Yeah, you have defeated this thing, and so it's one of those deals that a lot of times we want the tool without the training of how to use the tool.
Yeah,
we just want the enjoyment that the tool is said to possibly bring to our lives.
We want the results,
but you don't get the enjoyment that the tool offers without the discipline that the training requires.
Yeah, and in that training, you understand. When you're trained on something, you better understand the concept around it so you can set realistic goals. You can set real goals. When you don't understand the concept of being emotionally healthy, it doesn't matter how many tools you get, your goals will always be unhealthy because you don't actually know the destination that you're trying to get to.
And that's why I want to say that statement again. You don't get the benefits that the tool could possibly promise to provide without the discipline that the training requires.
Yep.
And discipline comes not in these big swaths, but in small, consistent effort.
And I'm gonna say this: a GPS is useless if you don't know where you're going. If you have no address to put in, then that's gonna be useless. And so, like, I love that we have so many conversations around social media, but I wish that more people who are reading articles about mental health and therapy would actually spend time in therapy, working on their mental health, having guidance. But what do you guys think? Do you think that, man, it's just ridiculous, everybody's doing great? Or do you think, yeah, there is a problem with how we're using these tools? And how are you addressing that in your life or with people that you know? We would love to hear about it in the comments on our Facebook group and or on our YouTube page. So wherever you're at, man, continue to like, comment, subscribe, share that, and we'll see you next week
In the intersection.